The odds of hitting the Powerball jackpot are 1 in 292 million, yet when a gas station in Quincy sold a $1.04 billion ticket, those millions of particles appeared to snap into a perfectly ordered alignment. Public fascination with the lottery relies on a psychological suspension of math. Rational adults choose to ignore the staggering weight of probability, believing that a miracle can be summoned through blind hope. The system beneath the dream is remarkably fragile. In Washington, D.C., a man named John Cheeks sued for $340 million after a web developer accidentally published test numbers to the live lottery site. Cheeks had the winning numbers on his screen, but because the central server didn't record a valid transaction, the lottery declared his ticket worthless. The facade of random chance hides an engineered system of software and logistics. Every engineered system is vulnerable, subject to catastrophic technical errors and precise, calculated exploitation. To understand the limit of pure luck, we look to Bill Morgan. In 1998, the Australian truck driver survived a fatal heart attack and a 12-day coma. He emerged with a neurologically flawless recovery, essentially granted a second life. Morgan celebrated his survival by winning a $30,000 car on a scratch-off ticket. The story was so improbable that a local news crew took him back to the store to film a reenactment of the purchase for the evening broadcast. During the B-roll shoot, Morgan scratched a new ticket on camera for the cameras to capture. He stopped, turned to the lens, and announced he just won a $250,000 jackpot. He collided with a massive probability event on camera. Morgan's story exists as the ultimate cultural myth, the universe smiling on an individual. But the sharpest minds in gambling history refuse to wait for a miracle. They prefer to force the math. Sometimes massive wealth is generated by stumbling into the gears of a shifting economy. Timothy Dexter was an uneducated 18th century merchant whose neighbors constantly tried to bankrupt him with intentionally ruinous advice. Yet Dexter consistently failed upward, finding buyers for warming pans in the tropical West Indies and coal in the mining hub of Newcastle. His most significant windfall involved barrels of depreciated continental currency. After the Revolutionary War, the notes were considered worthless paper, mocked by the public and dumped by sensible merchants. Dexter spent his savings hoarding the currency by the ton. In 1790, Alexander Hamilton established the Federal Credit System. To build international trust, the Funding Act decreed that the new government would redeem those exact continental notes at full face value. This federal restructuring transformed Dexter's barrels of paper into a massive overnight fortune. Dexter was the beneficiary of accidental macroeconomic arbitrage. His wealth was the result of a state resetting its financial rules, while he happened to hold the underlying asset. In 1891, a confidence trickster named Charles Wells tested the physical constraints of a different financial system. He arrived in Monte Carlo using capital he had defrauded from investors, intent on overwhelming the gaming tables. Wells played for 11 hours straight, using a cold, mechanical aggression. He staked the 8,000 franc maximum limit on nearly every spin, testing the table's capacity to pay. This chart shows the table's liquidity. Breaking the bank meant draining its 100,000 franc reserve. Wells hit 5 on 5 consecutive spins, forcing the reserve to 0. Play suspended. A black cloth covered the table until staff physically transported fresh cash to reset it. Whether Wells won through extreme variance or internal collusion, he proved that rigid liquidity limits create a bottleneck. Once a player has enough capital to overwhelm that daily reserve, the house's aura of invincibility collapses. Calculated mathematical exploitation is the domain of the apex predators. In 1729, a destitute Voltaire partnered with the mathematician Charles-Marie de la Condamine to solve a new lottery launched by the French Treasury. The government's bond lottery contained a massive oversight. They tied the cost of a ticket to the value of a citizen's government bond, but they kept the 500,000 livre jackpot the same for every player. The math of the entry fee was broken. A bondholder with a small debt could purchase a 1 livre ticket that carried the exact same probability of winning as a noble's 100 livre ticket. For the low-cost tickets, the expected value was overwhelmingly positive. The syndicate cornered the market by buying up dirt-cheap municipal bonds, allowing them to mass purchase fractional tickets that guaranteed themselves a jackpot win every single month. Voltaire had identified a mispriced mathematical spread. He used the winnings to fund his intellectual and philosophical independence for the rest of his life. In the modern era, Joan Ginther achieved similar results by focusing on logistics. Hailed as the luckiest woman alive after 4 multi-million-dollar wins, Ginther was actually a Stanford-trained statistician with a PhD in predictive modeling. Scratch-off cards operate as deterministic, closed-print runs with fixed prize distributions. Unlike live draw games, every winning ticket in a scratch-off game is already printed and shipped to a location before the first card is sold. Ginther monitored public lottery shipping manifests. She tracked how many tickets had been sold and how many top-tier grand prizes remained unclaimed, looking for the point where the physical supply of losing tickets had been depleted. When the vast majority of losing tickets are discarded, but the grand prizes remain, the game offers a mathematically positive expected return. Ginther removed the element of chance by bulk buying entire shipping rolls at specific rural mini-marts. To a Stanford statistician, the lottery was a logistical problem of supply and depletion. Modern state lotteries function as highly efficient, regressive tax engines. They exist to extract wealth from the public to fund government budgets, relying on a consistent gap between ticket sales and payouts. The system generates over $30 billion annually. It achieves this by locking in a negative return, monetizing a widespread misunderstanding of probability. The house relies on mathematical illiteracy to remain profitable. In a game designed this way, true fortunes are rarely built by playing as intended. Billion-dollar jackpots dominate the headlines, but the history of gambling tells a different story. True fortunes belong to the sharp minds who identify and execute on the mispriced spread between probability and system design. I'm PostFacto. Subscribe for deeper geopolitical and economic synthesis.